Hey, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. We're doing our chatty coffee date today. We are all in the heavenly minded homemaker uniform because it is, yes, me, Sabrina. But I asked you guys a little while ago, what guests would you like to see here on the podcast? I would love to have more guests come and join us for our chatty coffee date. And so one of the first recommendations I got was to have my mom on. So that is my mom. Yay. Her name is Dorothy, but all the kids, they all call her Nan. Even now in the co-op, she's just Nan to everybody. So you kind of just solidified yourself as the Nan to everyone. So we thought it would be so much fun to have you on. And I know, Mom, obviously we've done, a bunch of things before, but I know we have so many new people that haven't gotten to see you, and, some that maybe have seen you now joining in our homeschool co-op and stuff. I thought this would be kind of a neat thing for them to get to, have this conversation with you here. And I thought it would be kind of neat because, looking at it between the three of us, we're all moms of kids from, 6 years old up to 37 years old. And Sabrina and I were kind of talking about like how neat that, my kids are still a little bit younger. Sabrina's are a little bit older. You've got all of us kids grown up and out of the house. So I think just as moms kind of talking about those different seasons of life and those things that we're going through. Like I noticed the other day I was sitting there thinking about it, and I go, between Sabrina and I, we are raising half a dozen daughters. I mean, we each have a boy too, but just how great, like there's half a dozen daughters.
You are, right. That's true.
So
I had one, that was enough.
Yeah. So we're parents here. We're just one shy, but we've got 11 kids between the three of us. So I think just that, and I know a lot of times we'll get questions about different things. And yes, our oldest is 20 or 19. He's turning 20 this year, but like, he's still home. Like while we've made some transition, it's still very much the same in many ways. And so just looking at, there's some things where I feel bad, but I'm like, I know, Mom, I've sent you emails before. I'm like, do you want to reach out to this gal and chat with her? Because I don't know what it's like when you hit that phase of empty nester and moving into this. Sabrina's going through it right now. Your oldest daughter lives in my house. Like, like
one mom for the other mom.
Yeah. I love it. She does. She calls me second mom. She'll come up and she'll be like, she asked me the other day, she goes, if I'm living here with you now, does that make you first mom? And I'm like, no, I'll still be second mom. It's okay. I'll still be second mom. I'm just the closest point of contact at the moment. But, I think that's just neat because sometimes I think even for like Sabrina, like as she's starting to transition to, your oldest is getting ready to turn 20. The youngest are, literally right there because your kids are so close together that I think there's a lot for you too. And it's like, how do I transition? Like, I know that was hard for you when you're like, you had all your kids close. So you were used to being really hands-on, really busy, all the stuff. And then all of a sudden they're capable and you're just not, but there's like no manual out there that just like prepares you. Right. I feel like we do a lot when they're babies, right? What to do in the first year, how to do all of that, whatever. But then as they get older, it's like, there's less like conversation about it. So then you get to it and you're like, how does one transition into empty nesting? How does one relate with their adult children? You know what I mean? Like you kind of bring in those different aspects of it. So I think that was just kind of a neat thing we're all gathered here together, that we can learn. And I think it's neat too, because all of us do this, but like Mom, you took things that happened to you with your parents that you didn't like, and that affected you, right? It happens to all of us, right? So you took things that, well, I didn't like how that happened, so we're going to do different. We're going to do it like this. Or things that you struggled with because of whatever with your upbringing that then were struggles that were brought into your parenting, right? And that's the same way. So I'm like, okay, there's certain things that I'm like, I hated when that happened when I was a kid, so I'm not going to do that, but then there's other things that I do because it's like, that always happened when I was a kid, so now I do it, or whatever. Like you bring in those different pieces. And I think that's what's been really neat is, I know we have conversations about that a lot, because it's so neat now, our like mother-daughter relationship in adulthood, that we have those conversations and we'll talk about stuff, and there's always those things that our parents do as grandparents that they never did as parents. And you're like, seriously, really? Like you would have never, done that or, whatever.
That's true.
And that's part of the blessing of being a grandparent, right? And you get but I think it's just kind of neat when we we talk about that and we look at that and go, I love it. I think it's awesome to see. I love our relationship now as, me being an adult and in the relationship you and I have, Mom.
Me too.
Yeah. And yours with the kid, and all of that. And I think that's because like me, I'm still, my youngest is just turned 6. So I am far more focused on, I don't want to screw up my kids. I'm trying to lay the right foundation. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to do all those things. And then I think there's that part too, where sometimes I know I'm talking with a lot of the viewers and stuff that we have, and their kids are already grown. They know they didn't, train their kids up in the ways of the Lord. They know they made mistakes and they can't get that time right. Like they know those things. And it's, well, what do I do now? My kids, it's easy to think about, what are you doing with the 6-year-old? Because they're so much easier, when you're that age, right? Like Olivia, it's so much easier to turn it around. Well, what do you do with your 30-year-old, or whatever, right? When things are so different. And so I think that, I don't know, I think there's just a lot of conversation to be had here in that motherhood doesn't end at 18, right? Like when your kids turn 18, you don't like cease being their mom, but it just changes in the way that I'm pouring into my 6-year-old versus you're pouring into your 16-year-old versus you're pouring into your, 36-year-old. I mean, your 7-year-old, but like it's just changes how we do those, but it doesn't make it any less valuable, important, or any less of your mission field, as a mom. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that, what do you think for you, it was hard to transition into like empty nesting mom? Like, was that like
Yes. I cried a lot when you were little, but I'll tell you what, I cried a lot harder when y'all were leaving the nest. Yeah. But there were so many things going on, especially when the boys were leaving the nest, that, I was really ill. I didn't know it. And so everything was it was really hard to grade. It was just difficult. Yeah. And then there's the last
I don't remember the boys moving out.
They moved into your house.
I guess that's why they just all of a sudden moved to Dubai. Because I'm like, when did they move out of your house? Like, racking my brain, I can't remember it.
They were the ones babysitting Travis sleeping on the couch while you were at work. Don't you remember that?
Yeah, I guess I do. That was it, huh? Yeah. So you guys were up in Virginia,
right? And now listen, it was difficult because they were leaving. Because I like having people. I love having everybody at home. That's just always my thing. But at the same time, it wasn't as difficult because they were living with their sister who lived, in the neighboring state. But they were moving in with you. So it's not like they were like going clear across the country to live with their dad or go away to college or leaving the United States somewhere. You know what I mean? It wasn't that difficult. And we still had a good relationship, even though it wasn't perfect. We still had a good relationship. So I know I could call them and speak to them and, so, I mean, and I knew that they needed to do their own thing too. And I liked that it was a stepping stone. So I always liked when they moved back home with you or with me because you knew where they were. As long as I knew where those boys were. Heidi was easy to find. She wasn't going far. She had Travis and then she started having kids. So once she can
find me anywhere.
Easy to find.
I'm the one with the gaggle of ducks behind me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So
I do remember you saying that because I do remember you saying that when you're like, I just love that they're with you because I know they've been accounted for, right? Like there's nothing that's gone too awry. They've been accounted for in some fashion.
Because for me, knowing where your child is sleeping every night, and I know that they're, you know what I mean? You could head count and you knew everything was okay. And the best thing is that you all have always been close and that has continued into your adulthood. And if I've done nothing else right, I'm just glad that happened because I always felt that was really important.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Sibling relationships. Yeah.
Sibling relationships. Yeah.
Did the boys move out together?
They did not. Larkin went first because Larkin was really smart, but he had enough of high school. He had enough of high school. So my two sons had promised their great grandfather, that they would finish school. My grandfather had only went to school up to 2nd grade, and he had told the boys, "You've got to do that." And so they had promised, and he passed away. So my son came to me and said, "Mom, I just cannot do this anymore. I want to get out. can I take the GED? And I said, okay, let's do it. I said, if you pass it, then that's fine. So he went, took some courses and passed it the first time with flying colors. And so he graduated, he was done. And Alan stayed with me for another year. And he stayed with me for a while and then moved out with my cousins for a while and then moved down to Heidi's. Well, no, I moved in with some friends for a while too. So they've been back and forth in the house too. They've been back and forth in the house as well. Letting them kind of have those little free moments out. But no big loss at home.
I think it's important to note that they're twins.
Oh, yeah.
So your last children were twins. And so I was just curious how that empty nest went with them. If it was because Heidi moved out and did her own thing.
Mm-hmm.
If both of the boys moved out at the same time and were like, I'm done. And then you like truly empty nested it because you lost two at the same time. That would have been very, but like that's the scenario that I'm going to run into is I have a set of twins as my last children.
Right.
So I'm always curious if they're going to leave together or if there's going to be one that stays longer or so. I wasn't sure with your boys.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we had talked about that before because, with the boys, at that earlier, they were going to stay all the way through high school. And I don't think I would have been, I'd probably be more of a wreck because that's hard. It was hard when Heidi, it's funny because Heidi got married, but she stayed home with me until school finished. And so I got used to that. Like, she got married and she'd go home, she'd come home pretty much, she was home all the time. And then with the boys, I really did kind of worry about that. But you're right, because one left and then the other. It was, kind of trickled. But you're right. That would be really devastating to couple. But your girls aren't going nowhere. They're probably going to stay there forever, Mom. We love our Rosie.
That's why we're building a family property.
They're only going to move into their own little hut over here.
Yeah.
And that'll be okay. No, but you're right, Sabrina. That's hard. It's hard. It is hard. It's just hard because you've had them for 18 years and you have poured your whole self into them. And you wake up every morning, you know where they're at. You go to bed at night, you know where they're at. You know how their day is going. You know that they've been fed. I mean, because by the time they're teenagers, the essentials of things that they require or from us, besides our time that we try to squeeze in because they all, want to be busy and doing their own things. My boys wanted to have a job and go do other things, play sport. I used to say, well, the best thing is that when they're done with school, I think I could maybe sleep. Maybe I could go to sleep at night and take a nap during the day, and it would be okay. And you know what? Forget it. When you're a mom forever. I'm 30. You're 37. I'm going to be 59, and I still have sleepless nights, and I still worry, and I still, cry when things are, hard for you all. It only changes that you're in a different location, but we're still doing all those things, right? And now I have a new daughter. Her name is Sabrina. Yeah. So I don't know. Kind of, you know what though? I think I have more kids now than I had when I started. I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah,
you've
adopted a few.
Yeah, I'll take them all. My grandma's philosophy was once you're in, you can't get out.
You're in. Well, we kind of read, and kind of going through that, just playing that part and I think that's probably got to be one of the hardest parts is just understanding our role with our kids as they get older, because it's difficult, right? Nobody there's no clearly laid out oh, you hit level 5, now do this. We don't have that. But at the same time, it's, things are so different, Sabrina's daughter is here with us and we love it. She's here with the family and, everything it's going great. And she was having a rough day the other day and it was so cute, right? Because there's still that mom piece where I get a text from Sabrina, go hug her right now on it. Right. I was on a call with you, Mom. I was like, I have to go hug her. I don't know. She needs a hug right now. So I go in there and I was like, Mom's here. Come here, and did the whole, thing. It was fantastic, that you have it because it is hard, as a, obviously I feel bad for my friend over here because did your baby crying? I need my baby,
It was my first moment where I could not physically comfort my daughter. Even when she lived out of our house, she transitioned and lived in an apartment here locally in our town. I still saw her every day. After work, she'd drive by and see us and like say hey to the family and come and see everybody. Like she just came by every single day. And so if she had a bad day, I could physically grab her and hug her and tell her it's okay.
Yeah.
She called me and we were chatting and I looked at her and I said, "But honey, are you okay?" And she just spiraled fast and hard and it went, and she's 20 and in a different state and something's happening with a friend here locally and she has no way to know what to do, and it's normal adult stuff, but I couldn't physically comfort her, and that was a really tough moment. Like that was really tough. My husband bought me a cookie afterwards because when you have to do tough things, you get good treats. So literally he bought me a cookie because I was crying because I couldn't comfort my daughter and it really bothered me. But
of course,
it was really lovely to be able to send another mom in and be like, okay, she needs a mom right now. It doesn't matter that it's not me. Like it would be great if it were me, but if she can't have me, then I'm glad that she has you, because at least she has a transition and a soft spot to land. That has been always what we tell our children. I will be your soft spot when you fall, because everybody falls in life. We will be the soft spot where you land and gather your emotions and strength and get back up, and then you can take off from a good start. So like,
aww.
Heidi, please go be her mama. She needs a mama right now. Please, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
And she did. She said, "Oh, I gotta go. Abby needs me." She put her phone in, so she got off and ran. So I'm glad.
Literally,
That's wonderful. So
and
see, Heidi has been my helper too in that whole thing. See, Heidi, you played a big role. Look at you.
So all of y'all's kids flee the nest. They just come into mine, and then you come back over here. That's how we do it.
Oh, well, hey, there's our soft spot, huh? Oh, Sabrina. There we go. Sabrina's coming next. I guess eventually, maybe me. Well, yeah. One day.
But I think that's interesting because I know, Sabrina, for you, it was really hard in that, like, I think for you, especially because your kids, you had them all very close in age. So like you put with like, when you put it, because Sabrina and I have talked about this, I'm like, all of my kids are spaced out. And so I feel like they've worn me down from like the oldest to the youngest, because it's like, they get a little more difficult, and it's like, but you're doing it and you're doing it and you're doing it and you're doing it. And then finally you're like, oh my goodness. Okay, fine. It's fine. I don't care anymore. You've taken my spark away. But we've talked about how Sabrina, she's like, no, those formative years were really, really difficult, but I put in that full time. And then it was like, so it was like fast, like 0 to 60. Right. But then once it was done, because they were all so close in age that you just really like reaped a big, like, bountiful harvest because it all kind of happened at the same time. But then the same point for you, I know in the past, few years specifically, your kids all in their upper teens, that 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that like all of a sudden it was almost like overnight you went through this, like, they don't need me. Not that your kids don't need you, but like that day to day, like, we're homeschool moms, we're doing all the stuff. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I got it. Like, I don't need you to be in that, like, physically active, literally caring for their day-to-day need.
So I feel like I am in the empty whole nest phase. Like, I am an empty nester in the way of I don't have littles. I have nobody that I actually have to take care of. I'm still their mom. I'm still here to take care of them. But if I got the flu and were knocked out for an entire month, and I couldn't leave my bedroom. And I literally, if I couldn't leave my bedroom, my family would be able to survive because they're all old enough to just do it on their own.
Yeah.
That whole, like, take the GED and do their adult life thing. Right now, my youngest could totally, absolutely do that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's, so we're empty nesters in the way that I'm not needed. Like, I'm needed, y'all.
Right.
I'm needed. But it's different. I'm not needed. I'm just not. But they are still here. And so I have to emotionally detach myself from their, like, day-to-day, all of the things, because they have to learn how to be adults. So I have to, like, detach from that. But I still have to have them in my house. So it's like walking around with triggers all the time of, this is going to be sad and they're going to leave and I'm never going to be, all the time. And I just live with them, and it's, but I think it's an interesting transition. And my husband very sweetly reminds me that we have a big year coming up in a couple of years. Like, we have a really big year.
Does it start with the 4 and end with the 0?
And the thing is that in the same year, I will turn 40. The twins will turn 18. And our oldest will turn 21. It's a big year.
Wow.
So lots of transitions are going to happen that year. Like, I just know it. But my husband is constantly trying very sweetly to remind me that we are still young enough to enjoy enjoy life, and all of the fun things that they get to, our children, our adult children at that point, will get to bring to us, and the experiences that we can have with our adult children. We'll still be young enough to enjoy it. And we put in our time, like, everybody has to put in their time as a parent. You have 18 years that you are mandatorily, you have to put in for a child. You just do.
Right.
I just did mine early in life, and all at the same time. I did all my work real hard, real fast, and then now I get to play. But I'm not so good at the transitioning and the knowing how to do they're adults, not my baby anymore. And yeah, I think what Heidi said earlier, there's a lot of advice out there for parents of inky dinkies.
Yeah.
But then as they get into the teenage years, no teenager wants to have their life recorded and put on blast on the internet so it's not documented. Because that would be terrible to have your teenage years documented and put on the internet on blast so that everybody else could learn from you.
Right.
So there's less out there for parents of these transitional years or parents of the empty nest, because those people don't want to be the example.
Right. Right. Okay, yeah.
And it is. I think I don't know. I feel like that there's just some of those areas where I know I could pull up 1,000 YouTube channels today of what to do first year with a new baby, or like whatever the thing is. And it's not necessarily the easiest to find that when you're like, but I think that's part of it, right? And part of that is respecting our kids and what they're doing. And Mom, I'm sure for you, I mean, we think back to this, like, there used to be no YouTube that you could go to find other people that were willing to talk about, because not everybody wants to talk about their stuff, even in person. And then that's fine. But, I think it is kind of nice that there are so many things out there now, right? Like, I can go pull up how to survive my first year with a baby, or, you know, how to deal with transitioning into, you know, school age or whatever, right? Like there's a lot of things for that. But I think when it comes to some of this other stuff, and, you know, like Sabrina and I have always said, we got married young. And so we've said in theory, we would love it if the Lord has someone for our children that they would get married young. That sounds great, right? We believe in that. But then our oldest children are getting ready to turn 20 this year. So like, oh, how does one navigate this? Like, I know in theory what I believe. I know where I stand.
Our children are not romantically involved.
Oh, yeah. No. That's not what I meant.
Not these
Very
two.
good point.
No.
We are not preparing these two children for marriage, and this is not what we are discussing.
Oh, you guys are killing me.
Just putting that out there. Just putting that out there. I have not sent my child to be her child's endowment. No, this is not. Nope.
No.
Because you're right. I said it, and if you did, don't make any assumptions in that way.
No, they
They're
are
friends.
both.
They're great friends.
Yes, they are both of an age where you and I were already married.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
When I was my daughter's age, I was pregnant with my third and fourth child.
Mm-hmm.
I was 20 and I was pregnant with my last set of children.
Yeah.
Like, I look at her and I go, oh, wow, you're really getting a late start in life. Oh, uh-huh. Like, no, not actually.
Not really. You're teasing me.
But like, oh, wow, in comparison, we really we're starting in different points. Yeah. And yes, I would really like her to have that enjoyment of being married young, because then you get to start your life with the right and you just do the things and you just keep going and you get to build it. And when you start earlier, you build bigger and better, and it just works. But the reality of it is that you have to watch your 20-year-old try to date somebody, and that's difficult. And wait, I don't know if I actually signed up for that, because like I want the results, but do I want to go through the rest of this?
Yeah.
That's hard. That's a hard stage to go through. Yeah. And well, Heidi had asked me, because we were all at the Christian school, remember that? And you're like, well, this kid Brandon, he wants me to go out and be his girlfriend. I'm like, well, like, yeah, right, because all you can do is call on the phone, maybe. I don't know, whatever. She'd never had anybody last more than 5 days, and she just wasn't into that. I'm like, well, whatever, okay. Now he's my son-in-law for how long now? And we have all these
almost 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years this year?
20 years later. And so, I mean, it was, that's probably, we had a hard time with that, just because I was not thinking that was going to happen and wasn't prepared for it. And then,
because you're right. I wasn't somebody who dated people like that wasn't, I had like
Heidi
a couple of
Heidi was an old person when she was born. Yeah. She just wanted to do school and get her stuff done and do her thing. And she
have lace doilies everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, really. She just wasn't into that. So, but anyway, yeah, I think it's difficult, but here's maybe a key I could give you, Sabrina, and one day to you, Heidi. When your children are, when they get married or when they're preparing to get married, you got to remember too that you've prayed for them and you have prayed for their spouse all these years. So you've already got a huge jump start on what's coming, because the Lord's been involved from the beginning. I always said I needed to probably prayed harder, but I couldn't have prayed harder, because you know what? In the end, we got Brandon, and that was a whole relationship that developed for years that finally turned into this amazing thing that we have. And God knew it. So it was like, wow, I was praying and we got Brandon. Well, now I'm like, wow, I prayed and we got Brandon. How did that happen? See how that happened? So it will happen. And like I said, you've got that jump start. So God's already involved, and he's already involved in the spouses that are coming. And the best part is, now here's me. I was a single mom. Okay. I was a single mom. I had to do it all by myself. I had some family. Thank the Lord. The Lord really brought great family members to come in and step up. But when you are the 24/7, 365, there is no day off. There is no break. There is no nothing. you're tired by the time they're 18, and you feel, and I always felt like I had to be the bad cop. There was no good cop in our house. I was the bad cop. I was the rule person because, I didn't even have anybody to really talk about those things. I didn't realize how that's supposed to work anyway. So as adults, when they all became adults, it was, to me, actually, it was almost, once I got done crying, because they were all gone, it was a big relief because when I would spend time with them, not that I wouldn't want to hear what was going on, whether it was good or bad. I wanted to know about the bad decisions as much as I wanted to know about the good decisions. I wanted to know what their thoughts were. I would, and as a mom, you still have those insights. So your kids are going to want to be adultish and go, "I'm doing great," and you're like, "No, something's off," And you know how to talk to them, and you know that when they need one-on-one and when they can, when they don't, and you still will have all of those things. But now, it's like to me, it's like, okay, now all the raising is done, and now you get to be their friend. And I don't even have to worry about being good cop. I just get to be their friend. And when they get sassy or saucy, I'm going home. And then I don't have to worry about it. I'm just like, okay. The hardest thing is watching them because, as a mom, you're always trying to keep them from making bad decisions. And then they make bad decisions and they have to live with those, repercussions. But you're still there for them, and that won't ever change. You love them. And I'm going to tell you that being a mom of adult children eventually does turn into this amazing relationship where you get to spend that time with them and you're all like adults. So you're all having like these adult real conversations, and your kids aren't, they're not really coming to you for advice or for, things that like they did when they were teenagers or younger, but they're talking to you about real things. And the conversation, if we keep, the whole thing is to learn to stay in there and get through it. And always, like you said, Sabrina, I love what you said, you're still going to be their soft spot, their safe place. And if you have children that you didn't get to be that with, it's not too late. You have to, I had to bite the bullet, and I had to go to my kids, probably not as much as they would like, but I have gone back and apologized. I screwed up as a parent. Like I said, I had to be the bad cop, and I always felt like I had to be like this tough, I had to be, we always said, my Aunt Dorothy, I'm glad she can't watch this, but I used to have to be her, I had to be the hard
She's
person.
terrifying. She is so terrifying.
I
I love her. I'm so thankful for her. But I know, and that's what Mama tells. She's like, "No, she's nice now," and I'm like, "This is nice." She's terrifying.
Well, I had to be, but I thought that's what I had to be, and I really wish I didn't have to have done that, but that's how I coped with life and what we were doing. But anyway, but I believe that even though as tough as it was, and I hope this is helpful for other families as well, moms, we can only do what we can do. And if we're putting as much as we can into it, we're all going to fail. Nobody is going to get it right 100%. They're just not. Nobody is going to. Christ's the only one that got it right. We'll never get it. We're going to fail. So you know what? Get over ourselves. And you know what? Our children need to hear, hey, I screwed up and I'm really sorry. But I tell you what, I love you. And I want us to start afresh. At the same time, we have to also realize, I had a horrible childhood. My kids had a horrible childhood, but I tell you what, theirs was not as bad as mine because, like Heidi said, it was cyclical. I didn't want that to keep happening. So some of the things that were horrible were no longer in our lives. It wasn't in my life. It wasn't in my child's life. It's new ones, but we still, but everybody's life is what you make of it. And, you can take, like I did, I took the things that were bad in my life. I tried to make it better for our lives. Heidi, you're doing the same thing with your kids. I see you do things, and some days I want to slap you because I'm like, make those kids do stuff. When they were little, I'm like, no, they need to be doing this. And you're like, oh, it's okay. I'm like, oh, dear goodness. But then they come to my house, you see, and they put their shoes away. So I don't know.
Yes.
I'm telling you. See, so a little bit goes on. Just kidding. So that's all about.
When you come from super authoritarian mom over here, and then I'm all about gentle parenting before it was a term. And when they're little, I know there's a few times and you're like, why don't you just? And I was like, because I hated that. I hated that when I was a kid.
But I don't blame you. I don't blame you for that. I don't, because I wish I could have been that mom that, was, loving and first thought, like Sabrina. I see you do that with your kids. You blow me
She's so
away.
good at it.
You are
I know.
so good at it. And your kids.
I try to be more like Sabrina each day.
Yeah,
I do that. I'm like, okay,
Sabrina.
how would Sabrina respond to her?
But we do, and we do wish it. But it's nice. I get to do that now. Not only with my own children, but of course the grandchildren. Of course, you all think they're all spoiled, but that's not really true. I really think this. No, you listen. I heard this and I thought, this really is the truth. I didn't get to be soft and kind and fun. Most of the time I was going to school trying to get an education so I could find a job because we needed some food in the house. We needed to pay our bills, but yet I had to go to school so we could do all that. And then when I got the job, it's just this endless cycle. So I didn't get to be all the fun and all the things your dad got to do on the weekends when you did go. Not that it was much fun anyway, we won't go there. So the thing is, when the grandchildren come along, it's like, they're not that they aren't my responsibility, because I have to say they're still my responsibility to be a grandparent and to love them and to be kind and to really listen to them and I'm not a parent, but I am their grandparent. So I do take that responsibility very, 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 I don't take it lightly, but at the same time, it's not my job to raise them. And that's a job. that job that you all are doing right now and you're in the midst of, that's a huge job. And as a grandparent, it's almost like I get to love and do all the fun things that I wish I could have done with you guys. And you guys could come along too. You just have to come. You could have came and played in the snow with us too, and I would have got you hot chocolate and any cereal you wanted.
Because when you go to Nan's house, you can eat anything that you want.
Yeah, but I can afford it because David works.
Like, she didn't give us anything. We never got that.
But
I think that's the difference between a parent and a grandparent, though. I think a parent is meant to raise their child and raise them up. And I think a grandparent is meant to pour into them.
Yeah.
The parent is supposed to be the one who is like guiding them and micro correcting the path. But then the grandparent gets to just come in and go, I can see that your parent is doing the job of raising you, and that's fantastic. And I don't even have to put my hat in that ring. I just get to be back here and I get to just pour my love into you the way I wish I could pour my love into everybody. But like, here's just all of my love and all of my support, and you're just pouring while the parent is like managing
and navigating. Yeah.
And navigating the daily life.
Right.
But I think that those are different roles, and I think that they're created that way for the purpose of you have to know what rules to have and what rules not to have before you can just pour into somebody willy-nilly.
That's true. And when you first had Travis, we really had to work on that because I was used to always, being in charge. And it was really hard to go, oh, I'm not in charge. Okay, so what do you want me to do? But then what she would want me to do or Brandon would want me to do would be totally different than what, of course, Travis wanted me to do. So the first few years was kind of like, okay, you kind of have to play that because in the end, Brandon was Heidi's husband. And so Heidi is my daughter, but she had to first, that's her family. That's where she has to focus first. And so I have to go along with what their decisions are. Whether you like them or not, unless they're holding the child off of a balcony somewhere and by their toe, you don't have to step in. But, or you know what I'm saying? They're not doing something that's harming themselves or their child. And they've got to struggle and they got to figure it out for themselves. But you can be there and be like a safety net or, a hug because they need it or you go and you sleep in their toddler's bed and visit for the weekend, sleeping in this little bed and reading. Yeah, Mom, 2 books. Right. We stopped after 2 books every night because that's what the toddler wanted. You do whatever it takes, though, I have a few that say, I've heard this from other families, well, they won't bring the kids over, so I'm not going to go over there. My thing is, I don't know what the issues may be, but whatever you put into somebody is what you get out of it. And so my thing is this, no matter what, and we had some struggles, but no matter what it was, whatever we could make work, I made it work. If I had to drive, sometimes it was 4 or 5 hours to more, no, the other side. Anyway, whatever. That's what
it was a long time. We were a good distance apart. It was a while.
Yeah, it was, And so whatever it took, I did it because I wanted Heidi to know that she's still important to me. She's my daughter, and I love her, and I love Travis, and I love, Brandon was her choice, and sometimes that's difficult, and it wasn't so much of other things that I just didn't get to have Heidi with me most of the time. We'd gotten really close in high school, and I really enjoyed spending time with her as an adult. She wasn't so fun as a kid sometimes. I love her, but I wasn't so fun as a mom either. So,
but I think that's a big.
We're women, we're women and we're girls, and we're both alike, independent and little strong-willed.
Yeah. But I think that's such an interesting piece of it is remembering, like, I think about this now with my kids starting to get older, right? Travis is 19 now. Lily is 13. So like now that like my kids are starting to catch up with like Sabrina, kind of get me into starting to go into that realm is thinking about that of like, I know that there have been many things that I've worked really hard to not have in me or my children, like our family now, because I hated that as a kid, or in whatever the situation was. And so there's certain things that I saw and I was like, I'm not doing that. Like that's not going to be part of my relationship with my kids, how I parent, what type of mom I am, what type of family we are, whatever the situation calls for. But that doesn't mean that I have it perfect. Like I know there's going to be plenty of things that when this role's reversed, right? And we're down the road another 20 years and I hear my kids talking, they'll be like, oh, I would never do that with my kids. You know what I mean? Like, those things are going to happen because none of us are perfect and that's fine. It's not about trying to be this like perfect person. But I think something that's so encouraging is so often we see all of us come with our baggage. All of us have however we've been raised, right? Why do you think every therapist, the first thing they go to, tell me about your childhood, tell me about your parent, right? It all goes back to that. Like it all goes back to everybody has their stuff. But when you realize that and you go, okay, I try to explain this to the kids because we moved to the other side of the country. We walked away from most of our blood relatives and the people that are our family are truly our church family, like those here that we know and we love. I mean, Sabrina, your daughter lives in my house, right? Like it's the family we've created, right? Yeah. And so
in an emergency, you walked out of your house and you left your children with me. Yeah. Like you just walked out and you were like, deuces, I gotta go. I'm out now. And you just like drove off as quickly as you could. Granted, I 1,000,000,000% supported you just driving away because you were driving to the ER. But like, yeah, you were just like, deuces, I'm leaving. My kids need help. They're in the house. Have fun. And then you just drove off. And I was like,
and okay. I literally was gone for 2 days and you were just in my house with my kids. And I was like, gotta go.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what happened. Literally. But I think that's what's so important as we look at that. And I try to explain to the kids, I said, you see why we don't have involvement? I was trying to explain, because we all have a choice to make. We can all look at the difficult families we come from, the bad things, whatever the baggage is that we have. And we can either continue on down that rut and dig it in deeper and deeper and deeper, or we can say, I'm not doing that. I hated being treated that way. I hated seeing the fighting, the arguing, whatever the stuff is that you have to deal with. Like you said, Mom, you came from, and your parents came from, like, we can go back generations that we know of really, really difficult things. We come from a very messy family. And you, while many of the cousins continued digging those ruts in deeper, you had said, I'm not going to do that. Now you had to compensate in your own ways, your own things. You were a single mom. Dad wasn't there. You didn't have anything. We were poor. We struggled. Like you had your own like trauma of life as a young adult you were dealing with no way how to deal with it, right? Like you didn't, I'm sure you didn't get the support you needed after the breakup with dad, being a single mom, right? You go through all of those things and no one was there being like, let's talk about your feelings. How can we support you? Imagine if you had a Miss Sabrina back then to sit down and chat with you.
Okay. Now, I'll take her now, but that was the wonderful. Right.
And so we went through a lot of struggles, you know, even you as a mom, like your relationships with your kids went through a lot of struggles through those things, but it was still better than what you had because you made that difference to say, hey, but we're not going to do these things because you hated that as a kid. Those were awful. You weren't going, and thank you. I appreciate it. Like I know the stories, but Nana and Papa were like, thank you. I'm glad we didn't follow that path, you know. To me, they were just always really sweet grandparents, and apparently that's not, you know, apparently they're a little crazy. Yeah. But then right. It's the same thing here where I'm like, okay, there are certain things that I hated that aspect about our relationship. I hated it when you did that, or it doesn't mean that I don't, especially now I'm getting older, I understand why. I'm hold no fault. No sense. Right. I get it. It was what it was. Like, I'm not going to, because if I'm going to sit here and hold on to anger at you or dad about any of those things that hurt me, I'm just hurting myself. You know what I mean? Like that's just hurting me. It was what it was. And there's nothing I can do about it, but I know that God's who redeems and who holds a purpose. And I know for me, talking back to the point of you, you know, as a, you know, your adult children, I remember the first time that you came to me, you called me and you apologized. And I I'm like, why are you calling me and apologizing? Like, I remember being so, yes. And we had an amazing conversation. And I remember you know me, I lock up all my emotions. I'm not a let it out person. But I remember by the end of that phone call, I was just like everything I had needed to come full circle to finally, there's one thing to say, like, I forgive you, even if you don't say anything, it is what it is. And we can only build from here. But to hear, it was almost like when you have your hurt validated of someone going, you're right. I'm sure that hurt. And I'm sorry. Like, I don't want, like, I know for me, that was so huge because I felt like we could build a real relationship. Right. Because it's like you felt heard. And of course, I remember running and Brandon and the boys, because of course the boys lived with me, because my brothers always lived with me. I was actually trying to think about it. We were talking with your daughter, actually, Sabrina, and I was like, I don't know if Brandon and I, we've maybe had in the past 20 years, one full year, if you added all the pieces up, where we didn't have one of our siblings living with us. But I remember going out to the boys and Brandon, I said, you guys, Mom just called me. They're like, what you call you for? You know, or whatever. They're being brats. And I was like, she apologized. And they were like, no, she didn't. She didn't apologize to you. I said, yes, she did. And then they told me I was just making it up because, of course, they had to be pains in my rear. But I was like, no, that just meant so much, again, to feel like, because at the end of the day, I feel like there's something that's hard with adult relationships with their parents, right? Because I might be a grown adult. I might have my own child who's an adult and whatever. But when it comes to you or dad, there's still that thing in me that I feel like a little girl that's like, do you love me? Am I okay? Do you accept me? Do you like, I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm the most like secure, confident person. And then I have to call a parent and I'm like, am I okay? Do you love me? I don't know. Right. Like, there's just that thing. And so it's hard even as an adult when you don't feel like you can go to your parent. You don't feel like your parent's there to support you, to be that soft space to land, right? And so I think from the empty nester, adult children parent, you know, like Sabrina, like you do with your kids, like I'll still be your soft space to land. I'm still here to support you and love you. I'm going to say something if it's the truth and it needs to be said. But other than that, like, this is still your space, because I think for us as kids, right, you're used to what life is like when you're a kid and your parent's your parent. and you're supposed to be the adult, right? Like it's hard as you transition, into like, I'm the adult now and I have my own family. What do we do?
With our daughter, when she turned 18, I actually told her that I would like to have an adult conversation with her. And we went out for a cup of coffee. And I was like, okay, because you're an adult, but you're still living at home, we have to come up with some kind of like system, because you're an adult and I respect you as an adult, but like you have to respect me as a person, not as a parent, but like our roles have to change a little bit. And we just had this conversation about how our roles were going to change. And the fact that she is, when they turn 18, I've told all of my children, you are your own adult. You can stay in our home, but there are like house rules. There are children rules. There are house rules. But like, you can be just an adult living in my home. You can be another adult who chooses to live with other adults as part of a family unit, and you don't have to live as my child. And when I had this conversation with her, you could visibly see her go, really? Like, I get to be an adult. Yes, you get to make your own adult choices, but we're just cohabitating in a home together. Like, you have to be respectful of the home's rules, because like the house has rules. Everybody in the house follows rules. I follow the rules. Your dad follows rules, whatever. But like, you can be an adult in our house and transition to be just an adult. But I think that conversation is important to have on, I'm going to value you as an adult. I'm still going to judge some of your decisions because like I'm your parent and it's natural that I just do these things. But because you're an adult now, you can very kindly and respectfully look at me and go, I'm an adult and I think I'm going to make this decision. And then I might question you and you go, yes, but I'm an adult and I can make this decision. And I would go, oh, yes, I remember. Thank you for telling me and reminding me of that, because I almost forgot. But everything has to be like mutually respectful in that way. But yes, have that conversation about where they're at, so that then everybody knows. Because in that same way that you can have your brothers live in your home and not feel like they're that little kid going to their mommy. Alan could move into your mom's house and he would be an adult.
He has.
But like,
Exactly. But he was an adult. He got to make it.
He's an adult, and you have that different relationship with an adult opposed to with a child. And where Heidi, you were like, I just want that approval from my mommy, and that's how I feel when I had to tell my daughter that I approve of her no matter what. But like, I'm going to give you the stink eye if you make some choices. That's
still happening. I'm still your mom at the end of the day. But yes, and I think that's great. That's the best way to do it.
On day one of your daughter getting here, I banned her from energy drinks and told her she was grounded if she brought one into the house. So, I mean, just saying. I said, I love you and I love your organs. Guess what? You're done with that today. Cold turkey, buddy. And she was like, I got it.
I might have known that you were going to straighten that habit out on her when she got there. I had to
put a mom high five in.
That's funny. That's funny.
No.
Abby's doing beautiful. I love her. She's doing beautifully. Oh goodness.
And I think that's what's so awesome. And I don't know, I think I appreciate you guys. I think this was just a great conversation to have, because again, I think that when we get to that other side of it, right, it can be difficult, whether we're the mom who's dealing with hurt and with their own parents and doesn't know how to process it or how to go about it, how not to dig that rut in deeper, but to say, you know what, I want to do different with my kids. You know, I want to break the cycle. I want to, I'm not going to be perfect, but I want to do better. Or, you know, maybe this is a great opportunity if you're listening and maybe you have an adult child that you want to call and talk to, or maybe you as an adult even want to call your mom and apologize, or, you know, like have those things. And then to look at what we're doing and say, all right, in every season, it has its difficulties. It has its issues. You know, some things are easier when they're younger and harder when they're older. Some things are easier when they're older and it was harder when they're younger, right? Like everything has its trade-offs. But I think that, you know, finding a community of women that you know, that's why I love sharing on YouTube, right? Like I'm going to take it back to scripture, but this is where we're at. I love doing the chatty coffee dates. I love, you know, Mom, we got the co-op and the different things that we've been able, you know, it's like when you have other people you can go to and it's like, all right, we don't have to look like everybody else in the world. We're going to build up our family. Our relationships matter, regardless of my struggles or where I come from or what was done to me and my journey. I'm going to do this for my kids, right? I'm going to love them. I'm going to support them. I'm going to be there and train them up in the ways of the Lord and enjoy this, you know, this life with them, because children are a blessing. And it makes me so sad how negatively teenagers are spoken of, even adult children are spoken of. I mean, everybody has this, like, you so often get these like horror stories, and okay, that happens, but we don't have to live in that. We can choose forgiveness. We can choose grace. We can do differently and say, you know, because I mean, I feel like if YouTube was the thing when I was, you know, let's say like 10 to 15, let's just like put in a block there versus the past, you know, 5 years, people would have looked at our relationship back then, me and you, Mom, and made very different you know, judgment about us than they do now. And I know sometimes I've heard from people and they go, oh, well, you don't get it. You and your mom have such an amazing relationship. And I go, no, me and my mom do have an amazing relationship.
Wow.
I love my relationship with my mom now. It took us a long time and a lot of work to get to this. So I get it and I understand, but any of us at any point can be humbled and say, Lord, you're right. Like, our children are a blessing. Our parents are a blessing. Like, we can do that. And like Sabrina, you know, like even like we all can look at the ways, because I know you and I talk about this. I know we might've been raised this way. I know maybe it was normal back then or whatever we want to say, but like, I'm not doing that with my kids. We're going to do it this way. And, you know,
no. I would say you both of you, I know I know for me, I did break a lot of the cycle things that were in homes that I didn't. But Heidi, you still had to come, that still needed to come a long way. So you said too, I'm stopping these things, and you did. And you have been fabulous at it. And it's funny because when your kids are at my house, they're like, man, don't raise your voice. Like, oh yeah, I'm the yellow. Okay, I can't do that today. But no, I'm just saying, but you have looked at that same cycle and said, okay, these are still pieces that were left in there, and those, I'm cutting those off. We're not doing that. Sabrina, same thing. You said, okay, this is what it was like for me. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Boy, and you severely. I mean, so you said this is how it's going to be. And you know what? That's what we have to all do. All of us have to do. We have to look at the things that we know were negative and were bad and affected us in such horrible ways. And we have to move forward and we have to fix it. We have to be the fixers. And God will give us the grace, He'll give us the wisdom, and He will give us the opportunities to fix those things. And nobody's going to do it perfectly, but that's what and look what you've done. You've done that with your children. And as they've gotten older, you know, and in years, you're going to have these amazing relationships without all the bumps in the road, like, you know, like Heidi and I experienced. It did take us a long time. It just did, because, you know, every time we start getting going, something would happen, huh? And Heidi and I are very independent, and it's not that we were being like mean to each other, but we're very, you know, we just have something in our mind, and that's the way it's going to be. It took me a long time.
Neither person is willing to give.
Yeah. It's like, who's going to go first? I don't know.
I'll do this all day.
That's right. Heidi would just go out there and de-leave every plant I had. Oh, listen, plant lovers, yeah. She would go out there and pick every leaf, one at a time, off my farm when she would get mad. So anyway, it's taken us a while. Now she's.
You gotta hit her where it counts, right? Hurt the plants.
Hurt plants, yeah.
Don't let my kids hear any of this.
Is that where Olivia got it from? Because I have seen her take and do that when I remember you were holding her as a baby in the podcast, and she would pull the leaves off, and you're like, baby, no. And she would just, and She would get so angry at you and pull on your earring and then reach out and grab the leaf. So, wow.
Mother like daughter, daughter like mother. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh.
But I think you both have done a beautiful job. And, I think that we just have to realize that we all fail, but He'll make a way. And if you've not talked to your children, I have a friend that I just really am praying for. I just, if you have a friend that doesn't, have a good relationship with their adult children, but really wants one, maybe you need to be the support for that person. If I could, I'd get on a plane and go out there and go with her and, try to help mediate, whatever it took, if all she got out of it was a hug from her children. You know what I mean? This is the whole thing. We might not be here tomorrow. Why are we waiting? Why do we always think, okay, I'll get to that later? Stop it. Stop it. Tomorrow might not be here. And you know what? If your last message to your child is on their voicemail telling them, I'm sorry, and be specific. You know what you did. I'm sorry. But no matter what, I really love you. And I would love a chance to try again and be friends. Okay, we're adults now. Let's be friends and let's start over. Right? If that's the last message Heidi got from me, I'll call you out Monday night. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
And,
That's not funny.
Anyway, sorry. And, I'm just saying, I have, because you're making me cry. But you know what? Stop waiting for tomorrow, because tomorrow may never come. They're not coming. They're not coming.
But you are right. If that phone call that you made all those years ago was the last phone call I ever got, or voicemail or whatever, even if in the moment, I don't even know what I said back to you. I think I was so dumbfounded. I was just like, okay, thanks, Mom. Like, I don't even know what I said. But to me, still, like, it's still so clear in my mind. And even that, like,
you could make it in this world until you come home.
Yep.
Because you finally have what you need. And as parents, we need to give that to our children because they need it. Whether we think they want to hear it or not, trust me, they want to hear it. But they want to know that you really mean it.
Yeah.
They do. I'll leave you with that one.
Oh, well.
Anyway,
I love
both my daughters the same. Sabrina, you're just easier to squeeze.
Yeah.
Did she freeze?
I think she might have froze.
I still love you.
Either that, you really just made her cry and she left us.
Sorry.
No, it really does. It really does mean so much. I think it is so important. And for those of us who still have kids in the house, this is an important thing to learn from, to heal from, and to move forward with. And then I think all the way up to those that do have their kids out of the house and on, it's an important thing to remember and to extend and to, be that role. Okay. Her laptop did freeze. She can hear us. Her laptop's just froze. She just texted me real quick.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Well, and I think that's an important role to it too, is, family is who the Lord puts in your life. And I know we talk about this all the time, but, you've become a mom to many in, even the past, handful of years, but, you've become a mom to many and a support to many and added on grandchildren and, all the stuff.
I love it.
And I think that, sometimes that can be a really, really valuable tool. I know, like you, when you came down so we could go pick up Sabrina's daughter, and she's like, really? Nan doesn't mind doing that? I was like, she's so excited to have you here. I guarantee you we couldn't keep her at home if we wanted to. Like, you're her grandbaby. She's going to be there.
Even if I was pitch black and I drive on the side of a mountain because it's foggy enough, I can't see the road. I was coming. I just slowed down. It's okay. But I made it. You bet. I was coming to get that girl.
But I think that's something too for us as women, that maybe it's not our children. Maybe we weren't blessed with children. Maybe it's not our children that, we have in our life right now, maybe, or whatever the situation may be. It doesn't mean that you can't still be that extended arm as well.
Yeah, that's true. I've been so blessed to be a teacher because even if I've been grumpy with, and strict with my even my students, I still love them. And I can't, if I were to see them, I would squeeze them. I would squeeze them and love them. And that's why I love doing this too. And the reason why you did the co-op is so I can continue to love families, because I love being helpful. And if I can help somebody, you've given me that opportunity and that, avenue to continue that. And it helps so much. It really just makes my world. And I'm glad that the Lord is using me. He can still use me. So I've been very, very thankful for that. I do. And we have just the best parents, and the children. Oh my gosh. I love the children. Yeah. So, but like I said, when you're not the taskmaster and, as the parent, the only parent, it's so nice to be able to pour into everybody else, and your well doesn't go dry. It's just, and so thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being our first official chatty coffee date, guest that we had on, even though poor Sabrina's computer decided to not like her anymore. Oh, thanks. I was gonna she could come on and say bye. I know she's there. She could hear us.
Yeah, I could hear you guys the whole time. It just was circle balling.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. We're glad you're back. Well, I thank you. I didn't get to have tea in a cute little thing because I really rolled out of bed for this. Sorry. Katie brought me
thank you for coming and joining us, and I love you, and I'm so proud of where you've come, where I've come, where it's all come, the grandma you are, the mom that you are, all of it. And I know I've more than I will ever be able to show my gratitude here in this life, but appreciate really, truly the both of you for just the encouragement and insight that you all are to me with my four. I really do just appreciate that, the helpful advice, the encouragement, sometimes even the things like that, Mom, like sometimes when I remember you'd question me on why don't you? And I'm like, because I don't want to do that. I want to do, but it helped me to work through, even on times when we weren't on the same page, it helped me to work through and understand why I was I felt like that's where I needed to be, but then someone questions you and you're like, "Ooh, am I where I need to be, or am I messing my kids up?" Right? But it helped to refine some of that. Sometimes I was like, "Oh, you're right. I will lean too lax. My mom was always too much, so I'll lean too much this way, right?" And I have to remind myself of okay, come back to the middle ground here. You're too far over here. I need to, whatever. But I think all of that's good. So thank you guys so much for joining me for this podcast and spending your time with us here. And I really pray that this can be a blessing for others, because motherhood is hard, and especially when you get to the older years. And I feel like people don't talk about it, and a lot of times people aren't willing to be kind of vulnerable with the real life part of things. But sometimes it can be really helpful to hear someone say, "Nope, really messed that up, but here we are now, and this is how the Lord worked through that." And I think that's an important key to remember to pull out.
It is. And let's do it today.
Yeah. Because
I love you both. I love my girls. Love you both, Sabrina.
Love you, Mom. And thank you guys so much for joining us, and everybody else. We will see you all right back here in the next one. Of course, if you have any questions or anything, feel free just to always leave that little coffee cup emoji so we know you want this question answered in one of our chatty coffee dates. And we're all ears. If there's someone else that you think we should bring on here for the chatty coffee date, kind of having our guests over for a virtual coffee date, be sure to tag their YouTube profile or leave a link down below so we know who to ask next to come over and join us. Otherwise, we will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.